Hello and welcome to these sharings. One of the words that we have all used and we're using in all our life, the word that has been most commonly not only used but also misused, is this very little word, I. So, since we're using this word so often, and since this I, the self, is the one who experiences life, to be very clear about who we are. So, right now, if we put this question to ourselves, who am I? What is the first image that comes in your mind? And experience says that as many people are asked these questions, as many the answers. And this probably shows how unclear we are about this so vital question. And this is a question that has been addressed by religions, by psychology, by philosophy, by science itself. So today our aim is to share some thoughts that are based on experience of some of us that have taken this question more seriously, and we have experimented. And of course, we don't expect you to believe what we're going to share with you, but just to be open enough to experiment with what we're going to share with you if you find it logic enough to worth experimenting with. So, and we'll take it step by step. And before we share some information about who we are, there are different levels of knowing. We are here today to know a little bit more and experience more about the self, but there are different levels when it comes to knowledge. We could say that the first step for knowing something is to have information. And for this, we need to be open enough and humble enough, in a way, to accept that we don't know everything. And the second step could be churning about what we receive as information. We have so much information in these times, but the problem is not more information, but whatever we know and we think is worth taking it further, to start doing this, which means start thinking about it, seeing different aspects of it within us, with our intellect to play with it. And this is where we move from knowing, from getting the information, to knowing, to knowledge. Information, knowledge. And then we could say that a third step or level is when we start actually using it in our everyday life. So we hear something, we start thinking about it, we see different aspects of it, and then we aim to use it in our everyday life and see in action the value or the power of it. And then maybe a fourth stage could be when we have used it so much that we are the embodiment of it. And we could say that this is a stage of truth. So we don't only get information about some aspects of truth, we don't only think about it, we don't only use it, but now we are this experience itself that at some point was just information. And then perhaps another stage could be when we share it with others by being it. So, who am I? The first image usually that comes in our mind when we think of the I is what? People usually would say the body and whatever is connected with the body, whether it is a name, whether it is a nationality, whether it is a gender, the roles. This is usually the answer that people have for themselves. But we all know that there is something deeper in our existence. We are very aware of this physical world, and we are very aware that there is this body that is part of this physical world. But at the same time, it is very easy for us, if we reflect a little bit on it, or instantly even, to acknowledge that there is an inner world, an inner life, this world of thoughts and feelings. It is as if there is someone talking within the head all the time, as if there is a storyteller within our head that says all sorts of stories in the form of thoughts. And we know that our thoughts are not sensed by the senses. We cannot touch our thoughts or smell them or hear them, but we all know very well that they're there. So there must be a source to these thoughts. And if the thoughts are not sensed by the senses, it makes sense that the source of the thoughts also is not probably sensed by the senses. So, shall we experiment with seeing the self not as this body, this physical form, but as the source of the thoughts and the associated feelings that make this body move. And we all know that we have a thought and the body instantly responds to it according to the content of the thought. So the thought is primary, it comes first before the body. But somehow have lost sight or even interest, for whatever reason, of this primary reality, where probably the self is. So let's experiment now with taking care and putting our attention more to the source of the thoughts and also the quality of the thoughts. When we say I, when we say self, what we probably mean is this source that we now visualize as light, as a star. And we see this star as the creator of the thoughts, but also the experiencer of the thoughts. So imagine now that there is a source of light, somewhere within the head, let's say behind the forehead, behind the eyes. And very gently we focus the attention on this source of light. And we see how the thoughts that we now have originate from this source. And maybe we have lived all our life by identifying with these thoughts, experiencing instantly our creation. If we are this being of light, thoughts are our creation. And without knowing the self, without realizing that we are the creator of the thoughts, we create thoughts and the creator is lost in the thoughts that is creating, the content of the thoughts. So we now see that we have the choice to create a distance between the thoughts, and we see them in front of us as if they are on a screen, and we see the creator, the source, as this being of light that is now the observer. Maybe all our life there were only thoughts, but now we start separating the creator of thoughts from the thoughts. It's possible that this is who we are, the source of our inner world, because thoughts are always associated with some kind of feeling. And this source, when is the observer of the thoughts, is silent. Our true self is silent. But within this silence, there are qualities. These qualities that we have been looking out there in the physical world are within the source, within this star, within this being of light. And as now our attention is on this being of light, we're able to also experience the qualities. And the more the concentration, the deeper the experience. So now we are not at the level of information or thinking about it, believing it, but at the level of experiencing it. And this is the ultimate level of knowing. So let's stay for 1 more minute, 2 more minutes. It's very pleasurable actually, and there is so much to discover. Let's stay with this focus of seeing this star, this living star, this being of light that is the embodiment of all these qualities that we're here to experience. Thank you. And as we put the aim for focusing our attention, the first thing that we realize is how speedy and how disobedient our mind is. We now decide to see this being of light, and instead the mind, which is still there, is taking us everywhere. in terms of space, in terms of time. And actually, it is this mind that has its own momentum that does not allow us to have the experience and the real knowing, but then we should not be deceived and think that this being of light and these qualities are an imagination. It is not. The lack of the experience is the result of lack of concentration. And that's why one has to have understanding of the self, how the self works, why the mind is so um, this has so many thoughts, and how to master the mind. Otherwise, if we don't understand what exactly is going on within us, we may come into wrong conclusions, thinking that this is not for me, I cannot do it, and this experience of this being of light or the qualities within this being are not real. Um, the answer would be here that we need to be consistent with some very basic, simple practices that are extremely rewarding.
There is a question from Maureen. What are these qualities?
Yes, we said that these are the qualities we are all looking for. And what are we looking for? I think everything we do in our life is for happiness, for the experience of love, experience of power, experience of security, directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously. Everything we do is for these qualities. And it is true that now we use the words for these experiences, but we are so far from actually experiencing them that they have lost their meaning in a way. But if we take a little bit of time to reflect and to remember the experience behind these words, we'll realize how there's nothing more important than these experiences. It takes a little bit of time to pause from the busy life and emerge these qualities. And interestingly enough, in Greek, the word for truth is aletheia, and a means without, and lithi means forgetfulness. So aletheia is the state where we have remembered again. So when we now share thoughts about knowing the self, it's not that we create a self, a self that we would like to be. The self is always there, except that we have forgotten who we are. And what we need to do is just to remember. But because we can't remember every unit, smallest unit of time, many things together, so in 1 second I can think and remember one thing. So we are already so full of so many other thoughts. So this says to us that we have to let go of all the other thoughts or images that we had about the self. And at least for 1 minute or 1 second, to create this space within our consciousness so that we can remember again what is already there. And because it's already there, this would mean that it's not difficult to experience it, but we need to remove all the layers of beliefs and feelings that have been accumulated on our consciousness. And with concentration, we're able to go through them and go to the core of the being, which is the self, this being of light. That is living. It's not just light, it's not like the star of the sky, the physical sky, but it is someone. Of course, this someone has been associated with the physical form. That's why we need to let go of the physical form so that we can see this star, the light, the satellite.
Another question: how to deal with the insecurity when we are trying to let go the old beliefs?
Very nice question. How to let go of the insecurity so that we can allow something new to come. One thing is that our own beliefs create a comfort zone or a security zone that, because it has not been questioned, appears to be a comfort zone or security. It takes a little bit of reflecting to realize that what we think is secure for us, it works for us, we see it does not work. So what we believe that is a security, something that works as security for us, it takes just a little bit of time to realize that it is not. For example, would you like to give me an example of what you would consider as security? Money or a position, a job or a relationship? They can all go. So before we consider them as difficult to let go, we have to see what they are. We will see that they're not providing any security really. So it is easier in this way to let go because it's false security. And when we do this step, then we just experiment. We don't need to believe anything. We just experiment. And from the experimentation, we'll have our own experiences that will give us the answer whether what we're experimenting with is really something we can rely on. For example, we're used to having a happiness or a security from physical objects or people. So if we imagine, if we experiment with letting go of these objects as if they never existed in our lives or these people for a few minutes. They're still there, but we play with this thought. And whether it is people or objects, they're always associated with some qualities, some feelings. And actually, when we want something, a person or an object, it's not the person or the object themselves, but it's the feelings that are associated with them. So now we let go of the physical aspects, people and objects, and we experiment with the qualities, the feelings they are associated with. So, in other words, we see clearly that the feelings can still be there without what they have been associated with. For example, I remember a person, and this person is connected with happiness. Let me forget for these 2 minutes of the person and focus on the feeling of happiness that this person was associated with. After some time, we'll see that if we're able to focus our attention on the experience of happiness, the happiness will be there without having the person, without needing to associate the feeling with the person. So the happiness is something that is within us and that is associated with something from this physical world according to the story we say in our mind about the person or the object of this physical world. So we can now let go of the physical world, the story we say about them, and just focus the attention on the feeling itself that comes from within us. No object can add feeling to me. No person can add feeling to me. I am the source of these feelings. But probably in some confusion all along our journey in this life, we have mixed the self and the qualities from within with the physical world. And it is always mixed and it's always associated. And so to know the self, we have to separate this physical world, at least for a few minutes. It's not a process that creates insecurity. And just focus on the experiences themselves and then continue from there. Thank you. Maybe we can have just 1 minute of silence, and for this minute we forget this physical world. It's still there, no need to worry, and just remember these beautiful feelings. How does it feel like to be happy now without any association? Thoughts will still come. It's absolutely normal. We see them as they come and go. The one who sees them is this source of life, source of light, the source of the thoughts. We now gently focus the attention on this light, like a star, living star. Within this star, there is happiness, lightness, feeling of security, of peace. We realize that this is who we really are. We are the source of these qualities. And as we become more aware of this body and this physical world all around us, it feels good to maintain these qualities, to put this aim, to experience these qualities in action. Thank you.